And we're going to move to 1653.
Mr. Chair and members, Senate Bill 1653 establishes the 13-member Joint Study Committee on County Boundaries. The bill requires the study committee to research and report on the fiscal and related impacts of a change in the county boundary line between Apache County and Navajo County to create a new Sitgraves County. The bill requires the study committee to commission a land survey to determine the possible metes and bounds of the new Sitgraves County. The bill allows the study committee to use services of legislative staff to provide necessary administrative and operational services, and requires any state agency or political subdivision, on request of the study committee, to provide the study committee with its services, equipment, documents, personnel, facilities, and documents to the extent possible without cost to the study committee. The bill requires the study committee to submit a report of its findings and recommendations to the governor, president of the Senate, and Speaker of the House by June 30th, 2022. And finally, Senate Bill 1653 appropriates a blank amount from an unspecified fund in fiscal year 2022 to the study committee to commission a land survey to determine the metes and bounds of the new Sitgraves County. Mr. Chair, there's also an amendment to Senate Bill 1653 that I'd be happy to explain.
Please do so.
The three-line amendment in the chair's name, dated February 22nd, 2021, at 10:37 a.m., appropriates $500,000 from the State General Fund to the study committee in fiscal year 2022. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dino. Any questions for Dino? Thank you, Senator Rogers.
You're muted.
Senator Rogers, you're up. There you go. Thank you.
Can't you hear you?
Senator Rogers, are you ready?
Yes, but I need to turn off my background audio.
Oh.
I'm catching up. Sorry, I was in another meeting.
Gotcha.
Senator Rogers, we're ready when you are. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what district you represent.
Stand by. Okay, I'm Senator Wendy Rogers. I represent Northern Arizona, Legislative District 6. Sorry for the late arrival there. I was in another meeting. I'm kind of the vehicle for this bill. It's been cooking, percolating for 4 years, obviously predating my tenure. It is the Northeastern Arizona Development Act, NADA. And the primary result of it, when it fully reaches completion, will be the creation, hopefully, of a new county, Sitgraves County, which would take part of Apache County and Navajo County to create a new county, Sitgraves County. And I will just talk through a couple of quick talking points, and then I want to defer to the author of the bill, who's a former Army sergeant with 3 master's degrees, Jesse Valencia, who is from this area of Arizona and whose original concept this was 4 years ago, and now it's coalesced into gaining momentum. And as I say, I'm kind of the vehicle to bring this to the fore. It came to people's minds because the citizens of Southern Navajo and Apache counties wanted their own county to represent them and their interests. The current county boundaries are archaic at best, not really representative of the real geography, the environment, or the demographics. And interestingly, the pandemic has shown now that these counties as they are could be definitely improved through the creation of a third Sitgraves County. Secondly, the needs of the citizens of Navajo and Apache County have not been met through this pandemic, which has seen over 10% of its population infected by the virus. several businesses shut down or altogether lost in the past year. So we've come up with this, what you will be voting on today, the Sid Graves County Study Committee bill to determine the feasibility of creating this county and to obtain much needed data about Navajo County and Apache County moving forward out of the pandemic. Thirdly, this concept has benefits. It'll increase state funding to the entire region while also being fiscally responsible. It'll give each respective county the freedom to determine its own policies specific to its regions. This is the tax issue. And then it'll also increase indigenous representation in county government and facilitate better communication among county, tribal, state, and federal governments. So that's kind of a long explanation, but in a nutshell nonetheless. And I would like to defer questions, if I may, to Jesse Valencia. I will conclude by saying, again, this is sort of a two-stage situation we have here. We are asking you today to apportion the monies needed to survey, hire a surveyor at the state's cost of something less than $500,000 to draw the lines, and through that action and through the study committee, which would have various members, determine the overall feasibility of this third county through means of having these lines and discussing these various aspects. So with that, I will conclude, again, as the senator who is bringing it forward, the sponsor, but ultimately sort of the vehicle of this effort that's been underway in my district for the past 4 years. I'll defer now to Jesse Valencia, if I may. Thank you.
Senator Rogers, we have a question from Senator Boyd before you
Thank you,
leave
Mr.
us.
Vice Chair. Senator
Go
Boyd.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Hi, Senator Rogers. Couple questions for you. So were the tribes, were Navajo and Hopi tribes consulted on this, or were they a part of this process? I'm looking at the map for this new proposed county, and it looks like it's just removing the non-tribal parts of Navajo and Apache from Navajo and Apache counties, like down in the Holbrook area. So were the tribes consulted on this, and would there be any tribal members on this study committee, since it would potentially impact their counties and kind of reduce their population? Were they consulted at all on this?
Senator Rogers.
I'm going to have Mr. Valencia answer that, but absolutely to the second part of your question, we will definitely have tribal representation on the committee.
Mr. Chair.
Or is that where we are, Mr. Vice?
That's where we are. We
Okay.
have Jose Valencia, or Jesse.
Jesse.
I'm sorry, Jesse. Jesse
Yes.
Valencia.
All right, Mr. Valencia.
Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you're representing today.
Hello, Senators. Before I begin, I want to quickly thank Senator Rogers for introducing this bill, Senator Rogers' assistant Gianna Elms for the very thorough research she's provided for the latest version of this bill, and Grant Hanna and Ian Jamie for their wonderful help as well. To answer your first question before I dive in, the tribes themselves have not been consulted on this plan. It's been a personal research project of myself that I've done with local leaders around the White Mountains who desired their own county for some time. You mentioned that the tribal regions in the north would be left out. That's not entirely true for all of the tribes in the region. See, the White Mountain Apache tribe would still be in the southern part of Navajo and Apache County and comprise probably about half of what Sitgreaves County would be. So each county, both the affected counties, Navajo and Apache County, as well as Sitgreaves County, would have substantial numbers of indigenous populations. And the county would effectively not affect those in any way. It's not a segregationist plan.
1 minute.
Okay, so when the pandemic first hit, our network helped facilitate the creation of the Southern Navajo County Community Feeding Collaborative, which provided networking and support for local school districts and reservations throughout both counties to connect food banks, help facilitate permits for food banks, and our work was done entirely by volunteers. And it was so successful that the Navajo County government begrudgingly approached our network for help. This was in addition to the research that we've done to create the county. This bill does not create the county itself, but the study to determine whether the county is feasible will yield important information now about these counties, which are the most impoverished regions in the state and have been hit by this pandemic worse than many parts of this state, worse than many parts of northern Arizona. So it is my hope that you guys will see the merits in this bill and see that much could be learned from the research, whether the county is feasible or not. And with that, I'll yield to questions.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Valencia, I know the study committee will probably put a finer point on this, but going into an exercise like this, what is the tax base of this new area? How is the county to fund itself?
Mr. Valencia.
Well, the way that we designed the county was according to these Title 11 mandates, which were put in place after La Paz County was created. Those mandates were put in place because the tax base of La Paz County couldn't support itself. And so the state had to support them for quite some time. With these mandates in place, what we were able to do with our research is show that there was enough private property, enough assessed value in that private property to meet the tax base requirement for the Title 11 mandates. But because we lack proper numbers that could only be conducted by a state sponsored study committee, we would have to be able to do this at the legislative level. We lack the infrastructure and the funding to be able to do that ourselves.
So,
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Vice
Chairman and Jesse, I'm always concerned about the local property tax rate as well as the business property tax rate. So, do you recall what the tax rate was per $100? Are we north of $10?
Mr. Valenzuela.
Per $100, I'm not sure. I do know that based on our early research, we noticed a discrepancy between median income and property tax. But the understanding is that when counties are created, when new counties are created, they would retain the tax laws of their previous county until the new legislative or supervisory board would then create the new policies, whether to rescind those old policies or not.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Jesse,
Mr.
my
Vice Chair.
concern is that in 1980, the taxpayers of the state of Arizona passed a requirement that it won't be over $10, and so anything over that, unfortunately, has been made up by the state, and that was through absolutely neglect on the state's part, but that's a whole nother story. So if you go in over $10, we the state would automatically be, and that's a collective tax rate of all the taxing districts that you have in your new county. So that would put that's something that you have to consider going forward, because it's a way of the state actually being forced to keep that county alive. And so I know there are other questions that I'll probably have. I see Mr. Aarons is on. I'll have some questions for him also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We have a to the
Mr.
point.
Chair, can I answer that real quick?
Mr. Chairman, to that
I have Senator
point,
Alston going first
I
here.
would also like to know what happens to the tax base in the counties you're drawing from. I believe there are 3 of them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
How many?
3, yes, it's
2?
correct. 3.
Okay, well, whatever counties we're drawing from, I would like to know what happens to their tax base as well as what's going to happen to the supposed new county's tax base.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Senator Bowie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Valencia, I want to touch on something that Senator Rogers said earlier. I'm reading the language of the bill outlining the members of the committee. There's nothing in the language of the bill that specifies that members from the committee have to be from the tribes, either from Navajo or Apache. So I know you helped write the bill. I'm looking at the map again. I would think that, folks from the tribes, I mean, they're going to be pretty significantly impacted by a county being created that's taking away land from the existing counties, their tax revenue. So we have other study committees the legislature has approved over the years, like the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Committee, that specifically said in the bill that there had to be tribal members on that committee. So would you be open to an amendment to the bill that would give the tribes a seat at the table, considering not just the tribes, but the residents in existing Navajo and Apache County who would not be in this new county would be pretty significantly impacted if this county were to be created and break away from the existing counties?
Mr. Valenzuela.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm going to answer the questions in order they were asked because I think they go together. The affected counties, which will be Navajo and Apache County, the reason why we designed this county the way we've done it is because you cannot take away county seats. So Holbrook would stay the county seat of Navajo County, and St. John's would stay the county seat of Apache County. The reason why this is significant is because how I said the new county was designed according to the Title 11 mandates, which ensure that were put in place to ensure that the state does not is overburdened with financing a new county that's being created. Our research indicates that both Navajo and Apache County, which are the affected counties, will have more than enough private property and assessed value between them to be able to provide for county services that state law requires. So now with the second question, going with that, this bill was also designed according to existing state law, which does not require tribal members to be on such committees. But that shows the flaws in the current state law, which is why we would like to present this bill. And it would be a great idea to provide an amendment that includes tribes at the floor, especially because the state recognizes tribal governments as being equal to states. I would love for that to happen. Amplifying the voice, the idea has always been to include the tribes to show how this would be of benefit to all of the different tribes in the region. There's not just the Hopi, Navajo, and the Apache tribe. There's also the Pueblo Zuni tribe in Apache County. So with all of these different things in consideration, if you can look at it in one way as the creation of Sitgreaves County is taking away a tax base. But if you look at it as a decentralization of the region from 2 into 3, you're putting each in charge of its own tax base and its own regions, respectively, to geography, to the different issues that are between the different counties. And conducting this study will be able to yield important information about those counties and where we might be able to address future systemic issues, whether it's shown that the county is feasible or not. So absolutely, I would be open to an amendment like that. And I think that I would like to encourage further bipartisan collaboration on this bill, since it is designed to be thus.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, we have Gianna Elms, which way I should know. I've seen it before, but anyway, you're on. Are you muted? No. Please introduce yourself. Please introduce yourself and tell us who you're representing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Gianna Elms. I am a licensed clinical social worker in this state and nationally certified rehabilitation counselor. I have more than 20 years of experience in advocacy that have resulted in good policy within state government agencies and legislation in multiple states. I am here today in support of Senate Bill 1653, also known as the Northeastern Arizona Development Act, for the formation of Sitgreaves County. I first encountered Jesse Valencia's proposal about a month ago and researched it extensively. as well as the relevant Arizona revised statutes. I support Senate Bill 1653 because as Mr. Valencia stated in his proposal, poverty is linked with high rates of social issues that affect public health. To be precise, studies show that poverty is both a causal factor and a consequence that results in rates that average at least twice as high as the national and world averages for addiction, crime, poor student performance, mental illness, untreated chronic medical conditions, malnutrition, disability, domestic violence, single-parent households,
1 minute.
among many other social issues. The coronavirus pandemic has revealed to us as a nation how people respond to their freedom or livelihood when it's compromised. Poverty was one result of the coronavirus pandemic for many, yet Mr. Valencia has been trying to warn the state for years about Navajo County and Apache County being among the most impoverished counties in the United States. They're simply stretched too thin and people are suffering as a result. I anticipate that the decentralization process, as proposed by Mr. Valencia, will not only result in a new county where each of the 3 counties can focus on the unique and specific needs of their citizens, but I believe it will also result in job creation by encouraging
20
new
seconds.
businesses, new residents and housing developments, increased tax revenue, and overall economic growth. Population growth will encourage nonprofit organizations to increase their presence to assist local governments with the social issues. Northeastern Arizona has the potential to become one of the most prosperous regions in this state. The proposed solution is well studied and has answered many questions to the extent that one is able. The remaining questions can only be answered through a study committee and a fully funded boundary study survey,
2 minutes.
which is why I urge you to pass Senate Bill 1653. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I am open to questions.
Thanks, Ms. Elm. Any questions?
Our last speaker,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, is Mr. Ahrens.
Mr. Ahrens.
Mr. Ahrens, I think you're on mute. There you go. Mr.
got it.
Ahrens, if you were...
Mr. Leach, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Barry Ahrens, on behalf of Apache County, in respectful opposition to this bill. Those of us who were around in the 80s when Yuma County was divided into La Paz and Yuma County didn't realize the unintended consequences of tax rates, of administrative costs, of the impact on schools, on the impact on county governments that were created by that. I dare say that if you ask many people in La Paz today, they'd say that that was a grievous error. As a result of that, there was legislation passed, the Title 11 legislation Mr. Valencia referred to, that created a process. And the process goes to the point in answering a lot of the questions that Mr. Leach asked and Ms. Alston asked, and that is, you're not only concerned about what the taxes are going to be and the revenues are going to be in the new county, you're concerned about the consequences that are going to occur in the counties that remain behind and whether the tax rates are going to be impacted by that. The study committee here does not take that into consideration. On the other hand, the process, the petition process and county formation commission that already exists in Title 11, it's 11-136, results when a petition is signed by members of the county who want to engage in this kind of county split or county reformation.
1 minute.
Or county combination. Thank you, sir. And if the petition is signed and the petitions are presented, then the commission automatically goes into effect. So at that point, you would have the people of the county saying, yes, we want this considered and let's refer it to the commission. I think that the law is clear. The law makes the changes that are necessary. The law asks the questions that the commission is responsible to answer. The existing bonded indebtedness of the counties, the district administrative costs. I could go through and through and through of all of these, but it's very clearly stated. And therefore, we feel that to have a commission that does not ask, even in the study committee, all the questions that the commission that's in statute, that's in 11-136 asks, we think would probably not be effective. And therefore, we would ask that you vote no on this bill, that if there are interests in doing something like what is being proposed here,
2 minutes.
that you go to the citizens of those counties and you ask them to sign a petition and let the legal process that's currently in statute go into force. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to finish my thought.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Aaron's has, to your knowledge, has Apache County done any work on the, how they would be affected by this move?
Apache County, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Lee, Apache County government, to my knowledge, and I meet with the supervisors regularly, have not taken this under consideration. Whether there have been casual conversations or not, I do not know. But I can tell you that the county itself has not looked into this and has not, does not see a need for a study commission. Again, if the citizens who represent the percentage required by the petitioning in law currently decide they want to do it, then obviously a commission would be formed and their input would be provided.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron's. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for Mr. Aaron's? Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
That's our last speaker,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, and so I'm ready to move a bill.
Please.
I think you have Mr. Valencia with his hand raised.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment that,
Mr.
very-
Valencia, Mr. Valencia, you need to be recognized by the chair first, please.
apologies, Mr. Chair.
Yes. All right. I'll give you a minute. So you got a minute to end for the senator here, so we can move on. We've got a long agenda. So please.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to respond really quickly that in the same law that Mr. Aaron's referred to, those petitions do not apply to laws that are passed by legislative enactment.
All right. Thank you, sir. Wendy, do you want to do Senator Rogers, do you want to do a closing comments?
Senator Gowan, esteemed members, this is worth studying. There are many things that can come out of this for the good. Citizens have been approached and worked with over the last 4 years. When I ran for office and knocked thousands of doors, I heard great detail to that effect. I would ask you to please give a little room here for us to do the good work. I will make sure that the good work is done to answer these questions, to answer these tax questions, and to invite collaboration from all quarters. I ask you to have faith, and I ask you to give us this chance to better this part of my district and this part of Arizona. And with that, I will close. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
Chairman,
Mr.
I'm
Vice
ready.
Chair. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Senate Bill 1653 be returned with a due pass recommendation, and I have an amendment.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Gowan three-line amendment dated February 22nd, 2021 at 10:37 a.m. be adopted.
Members, you've heard that motion. Those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Appears the ayes have it, so ordered. Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, I move that Senate Bill 1653 as amended be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. Members, you heard that motion. Madam Secretary.
Senator Alston?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to explain my vote.
Yes.
As Mr. Aaron's pointed out, I was also here when we created La Paz County and suffered through that painful process and the aftermath that was created. I would also like to say thank you to Ms. Elms for the work that she has been doing in our communities as a social worker. I appreciate that, and I'm very grateful always of the work that social workers do. However, Mr. Chairman and members, I fail to understand how passing this bill will help solve all the social issues that she mentioned. And I do have some grave concerns, and having been here, burned once, twice weary, I'm voting no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your consideration.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Bowie?
No.
Senator Kerr,
Senator Kerr votes aye on Senate Bill 1653.
Senator Kerr votes aye.
Senator Livingston.
Aye.
Senator Navarrete,
Senator Navarrete voting nay on Senate Bill 1653.
Senator Navarrete votes nay.
Senator Rotondo,
Mr. Chair, may I explain my vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm from Yuma County, and I do know what happened when Yuma County was divided into Yuma and La Paz County, and it was a mess. What confuses me is that there's already a process for this in statute. They have to initially gather signatures, and they haven't done that. This bill has been, many times someone's tried to run this bill for Mr. Valenzuela here at the Capitol. Last year, it didn't get a hearing. This isn't the first time we've heard this bill. It's over and over. Granted, this time it's a study committee. I vote no for many reasons. I think Mr. Aaron's testimony made it quite clear of the many reasons that this not should be done through the legislative process, but through the process that's already existing statute. With that, I vote no on 16.
Senator Tondo votes no.
Senator Townsend,
Senator Townsend voting aye for right now on 1653. 1653.
Senator Townsend votes aye.
Senator Ugenti Rita,
Aye.
Senator Ugenti Rita votes aye.
Senator Leach,
Aye.
Senator Gowan,
Thank you. I'll explain a little. We got an issue here that it's not moving lines at the moment. It's actually putting together a study committee to look at that and draw conclusions to one way or the other. So it's not going in and actually taking the lines and redrawing. So that's why we put it on the docket. With that, I vote aye.
6 ayes, 4 nays, 0 not voting.
Number 6 ayes, 4 nays, 0 not voting. You've given Senate Bill 1653 as amended. Do pass recommendation.